And we'll begin. So just sitting up as tall as you can, starting to get grounded, connecting to your breath. Taking full breaths all the way to the tops of your collarbones and all the way out down beneath the base of the navel. Allowing the rest of the day to fall aside, setting your intention to hold that space of light and learning, intelligence, tejas in your consciousness. And I'm going to start with the Saha Na chant. This is a chant that wishes that we engage our practices with vigor with one another, that we engage our studies with brilliance, and that the gunk that might come up as a result of our self-exploration, that we not project it, and we just recognize that we love each other no matter what. And if you know the chant, feel free to chant along. I'm not so sure how it will work with Zoom. It might be a fun experiment. Sahana bhavantu sahanao bonaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvina vadhitamastu mavid vashavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Well, welcome. So we're going to start really at the basics, and I know a few of you guys already came to the first kind of the free intro class, and I tried to cram way too much into an hour. So we are going to really cover some of the things that we covered before. Hopefully it doesn't get too boring for you. But we have to start at Sankhya philosophy. And Sankhya is kind of the core philosophy that all these yogic studies revolve around. And it's kind of fundamental for our understanding of how these planets affect us, how these elements affect us, how all of these yogic sciences affect us. We have to understand it from a Sankhya perspective. Or at least that's the way it's going to be most useful for you, in that you'll be able to really, so with Sankhya, we'll go ahead and well, first, and I hope you guys all have your pens and papers out. A lot of this stuff will be in the texts and the files that I send you guys, but definitely pen and paper out, writing some of these concepts down. So Sankhya is a way of it's a philosophy that gets to the root of our relationship with the material existence. And it's the relationship of consciousness with the material existence, and trying to describe that as best as we can, and how to make it useful. Sankhya is about it's about kind of honing down into what is truth, and what is the truth of existence, what is the truth of that relationship of our consciousness with the material existence. And all of the principles within Sankhya, which are called tattvas, the principles of Sankhya are called tattvas, and there's 24 tattvas. And they are really verified through direct experience. Well, through three things. There's three things, and it's kind of like the scientific method for yogic philosophy. And we whittle away the truth using these three things. So the first one is direct observation. We directly perceive the truth of it. The second one is inference. And so we infer, like where there's smoke, there's fire. And it's the ability to kind of like make some cross correlations within reason. And then the third one is direct confirmation from non-biased source. So traditionally, this would be confirmation through like Vedic texts or scripture, or even just somebody else that's a non-biased source that's able to verify these observations and inferences that we make. And so these are the three testing tools for what are these universal truths called tattvas, or universal principles. And again, there's 24 different tattvas. So I'm gonna go ahead and start to, can you guys see when I open up that file? I'm not sure. Probably not.
Not right now.
Okay.
Nope.
How about now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is a diagram of Sankhya philosophy, and this is kind of just like a way of having it make sense. This is, you know, there's definitely room for interpretation within the diagram, but these are the actual tattvas below. So starting with Purusha, Prakriti. Some people don't consider Purusha even a tattva because it exists really beyond the tattvas. We'll get into that in a little bit, but that's why there's either 24 tattvas or 25 tattvas, depending on if you make Purusha the first tattva. So does anybody just right off the bat know Purusha? I know some of you guys are experts. Anybody want to take their a chance at describing what Purusha is?
I would say
Lauren,
it's
I'm looking at
probably enlightenment.
Purusha, enlightenment.
Say
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that's it has some similar qualities to enlightenment for sure. But really, Purusha is pure awareness and
Pure awareness. Okay.
pure awareness, pure consciousness. There's some descriptive qualities: the origin of creation, unity, male energy, unaffected by the material world. But really, it is pure awareness, and all of these tattvas. We're supposed to be able to directly observe right now in this present moment for yourself. So can we all agree that we are all in our own seat of awareness, that we all have the ability to perceive and to be aware that there is a thing that is awareness, and we are all experiencing that in this present moment?
right.
Yes.
Right, totally. So we can all verify the truth of this thing that is, we call it Purusha, but it's really just the seat of consciousness. It's the seat of awareness. It's pure observation. It has not, it's like the very center of the pupil of your eye or the very center of a black hole. It is the singularity of just pure observation. Pure being. So we can all agree that that's a thing. And then the next thing that we can all probably agree on is that there is also something in which we observe. So this would be Prakriti, right?
Yes.
Can we all agree that there is the thing in which we observe? Everybody, you're
Right.
like, yeah, I'm with it.
Yep.
So Prakriti is everything that isn't the pure awareness. It is everything. It is the material existence. It is it's everything. It's your thoughts. It's your ego. It's your mind. It's the voices you have inside your head. It is absolutely everything. So these are two things. So far, I think we all agree that these are two facts or like fundamental truths of the universe. That there is pure awareness, and then there's the thing that we are aware of. And now the tattvas are kind of absolute truths. There's no interpretation of the tattvas. As soon as we start to make some metaphors in which the metaphors are really rich and we can learn a lot using metaphors and through this inference. But as soon as we start making metaphors, we start getting away from the pure truth of the tattvas. So I'm going to start making metaphors here just so that we can start having a greater understanding of the dynamic and the relationship between Purusha and Prakriti. And yeah, so traditionally, Purusha is considered to be male energy. So this is the great father in the sky, or it's the great maleness. And Prakriti is feminine energy because it has to do with the material existence, and is really responsible for the creation, right? That motherliness of being able to create a life form is the metaphor of Prakriti. It is creation itself. It is the manifestation. And so we have masculine and feminine. And up here, we can see that as like a yin and a yang, right? The masculine and feminine, the yin and the yang, coming together, really. Purusha observing Prakriti. And what Prakriti is doing is actually, so if Purusha is infinite, it's like awareness. When you are aware, now you've given rise to infinite potential. Now there's infinite possibilities of which you could be aware of. And Prakriti is kind of the generator of the infinite potentials of Purusha's pure awareness. Does that make sense? Okay, I know that's kind of a tough one. But yeah, so it's kind of, and really the idea, there's a lot of metaphors behind the idea of the relationship, but so that Purusha can know itself and truly understand the infinite potentials of the self. If Purusha is metaphorically the soul, Prakriti is the ability for Purusha to understand the depths of the soul, to know the self, and to really understand all of the infinite potentials of what it is to be in existence. And so, yeah, again, a lot of metaphors here. So as far as back to the tattvas, Purusha and Prakriti come together, pure awareness and the reflection of the infinite potential. And it comes into this Mahad Buddhi. And Mahad Buddhi is the universal intelligence. It's like the underlining intelligent form of the universe. So we can directly observe this again. So Mahad Buddhi is that second tattva or the third tattva, however you want to count it. So this is, how would we directly perceive this right now? Any guesses? Anybody? Any guesses?
I'm sorry.
I gotta see all your faces. I gotta stop sharing so I can see your faces. Yeah, okay. How do we observe that there is a inherent intelligence? Somebody. Oh, you got your hand up, Derek?
Earlier, yeah. I just was thinking of Purusha and Prakriti, and if I was remembering that maybe you could think of it as Purusha being a seed, and then Prakriti as the seed gives life. Maybe that's the Prakriti nature. Is that on the right track?
Totally. And there's really infinite metaphors that can be drawn between the concepts, but it's important to, again, realize that those metaphors are inherent to flaws, because you can't really describe the entire universe. But this is, Sankhya is the most distilled truth. So just important, yes, the metaphors are helpful. The seed is awesome. But there could probably be some flaws to the metaphor. Especially as we start talking about the sexes, like what is masculine, what is feminine, and all of those things, then we get into a mess of all sorts of things. But yeah, totally. So there is the pure truth of the tattvas. Anyway, the inherent intelligence of the universe, the Mahad Buddhi, we can directly perceive this because within your awareness right now, you're not just watching chaos. Is anybody just aware of total chaos?
Yeah.
I know it seems like it's totally chaotic.
Turn on the news.
I guess if you were to like break down all the things or whatever, but pure chaos, we would be observing nothing but static fuzz, right? It'd just be random, like weird quantum realm static fuzz. And that would be our observation. But I'm aware that there are these people in front of me through a computer screen, that I have a roof over my head. And the roof has a purpose, an intelligent purpose. All of those things. Does that kind of make sense? Like we are aware of order. There's order in the universe. There's the laws of physics. Yeah. And a microcosm of this principle would be the unfolding of sperm and egg coming together, right? Masculine and feminine, and the unfolding of the DNA into an inherent intelligence. That would be a microcosm. Or that plant, that seed that has the inherent intelligence to become the plant. Is another observation. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And then we'll get back to sharing my screen here. So then there's ahamkara, and this is your individuation. This is the ego maker. So there is all of these things, but then there's the fact that you individually have all of those things. So that's ahamkara, is your sense of individuation. I like to think of it as when the baby in the womb starts to realize that it is not the womb, but it has its own individual nature within the mother. And so everybody, we can all agree that you have an individual awareness?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Identity of self. Yeah.
Totally. And then we have manas, which this is emotions and ideas. And we can all agree that the universe feels a certain way, that we have a certain feeling that comes up within us as a result of experiencing the universe. Is that true?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And then we have how we interact with the universe, which are the sense organs. So we have ears, we have skin, we have eyes, we have a tongue, and we have a nose. And this is how consciousness interacts with the material existence, is through these ways. I think everybody can agree with that. Although some people might not be born with eyes, that doesn't mean that they can't see, though. There's still some sort of, patterns that are generated, even if you're blind, that have form, or ideas have form. And then we have the action organs. These get a little bit complicated. and we'll break them down and make sense. We have the ton mantras, which are the actual thing in which we sense. And then we have the Mahabhutas, which are the elements that describe these things. So really, we'll start with the elements. This is left blank, but I want you guys to all have 4 columns on a piece of paper. If you guys are able to have 4 columns on a piece of paper. And at the top left, I want you guys to write Prithvi, and right to the side of that, earth element, Prithvi. In the second column, or I'm sorry, you don't even have to write the Sanskrit, just earth is fine. In the second column, or odor. In the third column, anus. And in the fourth column, nose. And just understand that all of these things are connected. So earth element has an odor. Our action organ is elimination, or the anus. And we smell it through the nose. So these are all connected, and we'll kind of explain this a little bit more here in a little bit. Back to that left column, water element, apas, or water. We taste the water. That's how we experience the water. We taste it. The action organ is the urinogenital tract. So we urinate. That's the action organ. We expel the water through the urinogenital tract, and then we taste the water with our tongue. That's the sense organ for the water element. And then fire on the left. Fire produces form. We experience fire through form. So fire is, right, like it's light. It's light. Fire is light. Or heat is just light. Energy. We experience it through form. And the action organ is walking. So when we, and that's like, why is that the action organ? Well, if you use your eyes, right, on the far right column, we see something, we see the form. Typically we walk towards that form, or that's the main purpose that we have eyes for, is so we can see our direction, which way we're going. And then back to that left column, air, or vayu, air. And we experience air. Air, from an Ayurvedic perspective, or from a yogic perspective, really it's more movement than anything else. And the way that we experience movement is, touch. We experience it, right? Like the air that moves in the room, we experience it on our skin through our touch. The action organ is the hands. If you were to feel movement, we usually reach for it, or right, if you feel like movement, like a fly on your brow or something, there's the hands. And then the action or the sense organ is the skin. So they're all connected in that way. And then the last one is space, or ether, akasha. And we experience we sense sound from space. And the action organ is speech. And the sense organ is ears. All right, I'm gonna look at your guys' faces again. Cool. Did that make sense to everybody? How those things are all kind of connected? Awesome. Perfect. So really, what we have here are 5 different elements going from most gross, which is earth. So it's the most dense, to the most sparse or space. So we have a spectrum, really, from earth. A little less dense than earth is water. A little less dense than water is fire. Less dense than that is air, and less dense than that is space. And so really it's a spectrum of energy, kind of like an ohm. And actually there are 5 different mouth positions in your head, or 5 different sounds that can generate from in your head or in your mouth, that represent the 5 different elements, or these 5 different vibrational qualities. So there's the guttural, which is just in the back of the throat, like, ah. There's the palatal, which is right at the jaw, ah. There's the, oh, what's the word for it? I think it's called retroflex, and it's at the top of your mouth, the very top of the roof of your mouth. And then there's the dental, which is at the teeth. And then the labial, which is at the mouth. So these are the 5 different mouth positions to represent the totality of the elemental spectrum. So really that's all life is. And so that's all the material existence is this spectrum between earth and ether. And actually it's beautiful. The whole Sanskrit language is very specific about these 5 different mouth positions. And it's really awesome to get into trying to practice Sanskrit, because you really are activating all of these different potentials within our consciousness. So it's a beautiful practice. Let's get back to what this all means as far as Sankhya goes. So I'm going to start sharing the screen again. Any questions on any of that so far? All right. So we have Purusha, we have Prakriti, we have the cosmic intelligence, Mahad Buddhi, and then we have Ahamkara, which is our individuation. We have our sense organs, and we have the elemental aspects. And then maybe somebody's like, well, what is this Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas? What is that? Any experts out there want to give it a shot?
So 3 qualities of Prakriti.
I'm sorry, I could hardly hear you, but I'd love to hear what you said.
It's the 3 qualities of Prakriti.
Yeah, the 3 qualities of Prakriti. Who was that? That sounded like Rachel.
Yep, that's me.
Oh, cool. Good to have you. They are the 3 qualities of Prakriti. So they are the ways in which we experience the material existence, the gross material existence. We experience Prakriti moves in 3 different ways. And these are called the gunas. And the word guna means quality of consciousness. And these are the mahagunas, the great gunas. And we experience everything in a combination of these 3 different ways. So notice that it forms out of ahamkara. The 3 gunas really come out of this sense of individuation. And so in order for you guys to exist right now, and really, so you got to also understand that it's kind of a concept within this Vedic philosophy, and many different ways to see it, but time doesn't really exist. Time is an illusion. And really, the only true thing from a Vedic perspective is this idea of Purusha. That is the only truth of the universe, like the only real thing. And everything else is kind of an illusion. Prakriti is considered to be illusionary because it's dynamic, because it's always changing form through time and space. It's never the same thing twice. Like, it's always in constant fluctuation. And because of its constant fluctuation, its birth and death, it's considered illusionary. Where Purusha is considered infinite and is always, always, always. There's never been a time that there hasn't been Purusha in the whole entire universe. There's always Purusha. There could never not be Purusha, is kind of the idea. And in that way, we're all immortal. And that's kind of fun to think about. But again, these are all kind of drawing into metaphors. And again, there's always flaws in the metaphors. But anyway, so where am I at? The gunas. Yes, Prakriti, illusionary. Ahamkara. In order for you to exist right now, in this moment, you have to have context. Would you say that everybody agrees that there's context for your existence?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's some sort of like, I've been somewhere. I have a mother. I have a father. I work this job. I have context. So the only way that ahamkara, that you can exist as an individuated form, is if you have context. The idea that you were born, that you have a past, that you have somewhere in which you came from. That's the only way that this all makes sense to you. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. I might need to see your guys' faces again. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. You guys all got this tamasic, rajasic, sattvic written down somewhere?
Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Back to your faces. Just to make sure that you guys aren't like gorging out on some Ben and Jerry's or nothing, you know. Speaking of, I mean, you guys feel free to turn your cameras off, but I definitely would love to see your faces. I invite you to turn your cameras on, is what I'm saying. So in order for Prakriti to exist, we have to have context. Tamasic energy is the context maker. It is actually considered illusionary, and is the most illusionary aspect of Prakriti. It's the most subject to kind of that destruction of the universe, or that dynamic change. And it is the gross material existence. Our bodies are about the most tamasic thing that we have, because really they've got a story, right? Your bodies, they have a deeply embedded story to them. Like, this body has experienced all of these things throughout my life that has given my consciousness context for existing. So that is all tamasic energy, your gross elemental form, in all of the stories that you have that give you context that really didn't happen because you never were even born to begin with. You've always just been Purusha, right? Like, just pure awareness. And this whole idea of birth is just this illusion. So it's all, tamasic energy is considered static, dull, inert, and ignorant. And then we have rajasic energy. So this is this is us doing something with the tamasic energy. So I think trying to study yourself, trying to study the tamasic energy, right? This is a form of rajas. This is rajasic energy. You know, getting up in the morning, brushing your teeth, getting ready, all of those things are rajasic things that we're doing with the tamasic energy to propel us through time and space in a unique way, in a dynamic way. So what is the Rajasic thing that you guys are doing right now? Anybody?
Writing notes, studying.
Writing notes, studying. It's the dynamic movement through time and space. And then we have sattvic energy. And what is sattvic energy? Any guesses?
Peaceful energy.
It is peaceful. It's very peaceful energy. But
How about a glass of milk? Is that sattvic?
what's that?
I said, how about a glass of milk? Is that sattvic?
Oh yeah, totally. A glass of milk is sattvic.
Okay.
Like the
So,
balance of everything.
sorry, what's that?
Doesn't it like go to do with like balancing of energy and all that stuff?
Right. So, so notice that, so the sattvic energy, underneath the sattvic energy comes the sense organs. And sattvic energy is the present moment awareness. We all have that part of us, right? That is like pretty close to the Purusha. It's very closely connected to Purusha. But it is our ability to be in the present moment. It is the right now. Sattvic energy is the right now. And it's not the elements. It's not the movement of the elements or the movement. It is just your ability to perceive. These are the three essential things that you need to exist. You need a past, which falls under the tamasic energy. You need a future, which is what we're working for with the rajasic energy. And you need the present moment experience, which is the sattvic energy. Now, these things umbrella into many multiple different concepts. This is the holy trinity of yoga, of all the things, are these three energies that really umbrella into everything else in existence. Tamasic energy, rajasic energy, and sattvic energy. And the one interpretation of the things like the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata and the Shiva Puranas and all of these like Hindu texts really are really just a way of trying to understand these concepts in a simple storybook way. It's a way of describing these concepts to the masses. And so we have tamas, rajas, and sattva, and we see these in Hinduism as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So Brahma falls under the tamasic energy, Vishnu is the rajasic energy, and Shiva is considered the sattvic energy. Everybody still with me on those things?
Yes.
And maybe some of you guys are like, I don't even know who Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu are. Real quick, Brahma, for the tamasic energy, Brahma is the source of creation, or represents the source of creation. It is the great creator, Brahma, the creator. And Brahma is the material existence. Rajas, or Vishnu for rajasic energy, Vishnu is considered to be the deity that's responsible for making sure that there's a way out of the wheel of samskara, of karma, of all of these things. Vishnu is like the idea that we're working towards something. Vishnu is like the salvation, I suppose. But it's like the whole Vishnu is the great clock maker. It's making sure, or the idea of Vishnu is to make sure that you're getting the karmas or getting the experiences or getting all the things that you need to get to liberate ultimately from this universe. So Vishnu is the rajasic energy. It's making sure that all of the universe is functioning in a way that helps you liberate one day, one lifetime, whenever that is.
Tim,
Does
is
that make
Vishnu the
sense?
creator?
Vishnu is the sustainer.
The sustainer. Okay, got it.
Brahma is the creator.
Okay.
Vishnu's like the master mechanic that makes sure that all the processes of the universe are going on, which is kind of the Rajasic energy, right? And we can even think of it as like the atoms or the atomic clock, the idea that all of the atoms in creation are all in their way through entropy, right? In the universe. So Vishnu is really just this movement of energy into their ultimate form of disillusionment or liberation. And then Shiva is the liberation. Shiva is the pure dissolving of the material existence into the pure awareness.
The destroyer.
The destroyer, right? Shiva is the destroyer.
Can you say that in a pure dissolving of?
Sorry, Rachel, I can hardly hear you when you talk. Maybe speaking a little closer to the mic.
What did you say? The pure dissolving of what?
Shiva is the pure dissolving of the illusion that you were born. So Shiva is just the pure disillusionment. It's pure awareness. It's the pure Purusha beyond the Prakriti. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Shiva is kind of like pure existing beyond any of the ideas behind it. And it's considered to be pure peace, right? That's what there is beyond all of it, pure bliss. There's a phrase called Sat Chit Ananda, and that is the truth, bliss, or truth, field of consciousness and bliss. Sat is truth, Chit is the field of consciousness, and Ananda is bliss. And that Sat Chit Ananda is that Shiva aspect or sattvic energy. If we can tap in, and that's the cool thing about all of this, is that these three things are inherent within every moment of our existence. And any time that we want, we can just tap out of this Rajasic energy and Tamasic energy and just be pure Sattva. Anytime you want to. I mean, it takes some practice for sure. But the mind will throw up things and the Tamasic energy will come in, and maybe we just ultimately we don't even want pure peace and pure bliss. We have all these desires to experience the universe. We don't even, it's there, that pure peace, pure awareness. Anytime you want to tap into it, you can just kind of shut down that Rajasic energy, that Tamasic energy, and be in pure bliss. But we don't really want that because we have desires, right? Because we want to experience emotions. We want to experience the mind. We want to experience this material existence. We have desires to exist. Does that make sense to everybody so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
I get a question. So Tim, so you have Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, with Brahma being Tamasic, Vishnu is Rajasic, and Shiva is Sattvic. Is that correct?
Well, they're the metaphors for those concepts, but yeah, totally. They're and this is kind of the Holy Trinity. We could even go into like Father, Mother, Son, or the Holy Ghost, whatever kind of Trinity you want to put onto it. This is why triangles are so important and are the strongest structure of the universe. There's a lot of symbolism within this, but everything in the universe is made up of past, present, and future, or context, the movement of that context through time and space, and the present moment experience of that context. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Totally.
Cool. Some pretty awesome things here. I'm sorry, guys. I kind of got hopped up on coffee because I get nervous. Like 2 hours of talking, I better like get hopped up on coffee. But I need just a quick bathroom break. I'll be right
Okay.
back. Maybe you
That's
guys
my
can
list, too.
study these things. I'll be right back.
Wait. Oh. Oh.
And that is says 1016. 1016.
Down in the basement down there, but that is something that gets with the word.
I will make it work.
Well, if you don't have to use it, just toss it down back some more.
Yeah, well, it says 1016, so I don't really know what that helps.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, do we have everybody?
Yeah.
Awesome. Hmm. So there's an inherent problem within Sankhya. And I'm sure some of you guys already know what it is. I would love to hear your ideas. What is it, the problem? And the metaphor of the problem.
I would say one of them is being in human existence in the material form. It's very hard for our brains to conceptualize anything beyond that.
Yeah.
So they
Oh.
kind of, I guess, fight amongst each other within the philosophy.
Right. Absolutely. So this is where one of my favorite metaphors. So there's kind of a story. I'm not going to be able to tell it as well as I've heard it before in the past, but Purusha represents kind of this person that is observing this beautiful dance of Prakriti. So Purusha is just sitting in a chair, leaning back, observing the world, the universe unfold like we all are in some way. We're just watching it all unfold. And Prakriti is a very seductive dancer. that know that really is connected. It is a soul mate of Purusha, because Prakriti is really just this unfolding of all of Purusha's true nature, all of its infinite potential. And so Prakriti really knows how to move, you know? And Prakriti it's a game. And this game is called Leela in Sanskrit, which means divine play. And and so another metaphor is that Purusha is Shiva, Prakriti is Parvati, or Shiva's consort, Shiva's wife. And there's this very seductive dance that Prakriti does, and is like, and it wants to seduce really Purusha, and entice Purusha to start to identify itself as not just pure bliss and pure peace and pure awareness, but Purusha starts to reach out and leave its own seat within itself of contentment, and reach for that seductive dance, and reach for the Prakriti with desire. It's like, oh man, that is one awesome dance, life, right? Isn't it? It's a pretty awesome dance. And even, you know, if we're not enjoying that dance, that actually stems from really just like in any relationship. I'm sure you guys have experienced it when someone stops being who they really are and starts reaching out of kind of a codependency, right, for that fulfillment of Prakriti or the material existence, or, you know, or within any relationship, when someone gets too clingy, has none of their own sense of self, they identify through the relationship, right? And that becomes super unattractive, right? Everybody's pretty repelled whenever that person or that significant other becomes too clingy, too attached, doesn't give the space, doesn't give the respect of the individuation of the two. And there's a built-in mechanism within Prakriti that, because if Purusha ever fully just didn't identify with the self, then there'd be really no divine play anymore. There'd be no like yin yang, and there would just be Prakriti. And then there wouldn't even be Prakriti. We'd stop. The whole universe would stop. So Prakriti has a built-in mechanism within this thing that is pain and suffering, disease and sickness. And so the more that we forget our true nature as Purusha, and we forget that pure peace, and we lose connection to the pure peace, the more that we experience the universe in terms of fear, anxiety, you know, pain, suffering, we experience really the tamasic ignorant. Sorry, what's that? Maybe somebody just didn't have their mic muted. And that is great. So the more that Purusha identifies as Prakriti, the more we come into this tamasic, the more we identify with our stories, right? With our tamasic ignorance, that static, stuck, dark stuff. And the more that we accumulate excess in our consciousness of these elemental forms. So if you are identifying through the material existence, maybe you're like, oh man, I'm the kind of guy that really likes to have beer after work. And so like Prakriti is like, oh, here, have a beer. That's part of who you are. That's what you do. You have a beer when you're done with work. And then the more attached that our true nature gets to these ideas of Prakriti, then the more we develop an increase of that elemental quality, the more we take in through the senses, and accumulate excess elemental quality. If it's someone who likes to have a beer, then that means that typically that means that that's someone who kind of identifies with stress a lot, right? That identifies with that like pitta, that fire, that drive, that transformation, and it needs a beer now because of all of that identification that it had through that fire type quality. That beer ends up being kind of like that well, I mean, beer actually is a medicinal, has medicinal qualities to calm the fire, but you know, it also increases the fire. The more that we drink, the harder it is on our liver, the more overall inflammation we accumulate in the body, and the more we accumulate fire element in our body in a form of imbalance. And that imbalance is what we know as of dosha. If anybody's heard that word before, this is kind of a beginner intro course. So maybe that's the first time anybody's heard the word dosha. The word dosha literally means imperfection, flaw, imbalance, blemish. And so when we have dosha, we're experiencing the elements in a way that causes disease or pain and suffering. Does that make sense? Everybody's on the same page?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So there's an inherent problem, and that problem is desire, really. That's considered to be like the seed sin of the universe, is the desire of Purusha to identify and develop that codependent relationship with Prakriti through attachment. And then we use Rajasic energy, can go either way. It can either further the imbalance of the Tamasic, because it's like, man, I'm going to go get myself more beers. And that's some Rajasic energy, or do more work or whatever, you know, and or that Rajasic energy can be like, okay, I'm going to do a cleanse. I'm going to do an Ayurvedic cleanse and take beer out. And we can use that Rajasic energy to do more yoga and to like, and to do all of those things. Does that make sense? Rajasic energy is dynamic movement through time and space, either towards greater sattva or towards greater tamas.
Okay.
And we have the choice of how we want to use that. Awesome. So we experience that pain and suffering until we've experienced enough of it that we shift using the Rajasic energy towards a greater sattva, or we continue to just indulge that ignorance until eventually we die. Tamasic energy eventually becomes death. Everything that's in the Tamasic energy fades into destruction. It's not conducive to the principles of life, if that makes sense. All right, so I think we nailed out Sankhya philosophy and the elements. That's amazing. Congratulations, everybody. We're making some progress. We could probably spend a little bit more time on the elements, but I feel like you guys probably, I think everybody here, any questions on the elements? I think you guys got it. Right, different layers of vibration, densities. Earth being the most dense, then water, then, or even the most tamasic, really. We could even, Earth is tamasic. In fact, Earth and water are considered to be tamasic elements because they're the most gross material existence. Fire is considered to be a Rajasic element. And air and ether are more considered to be sattvic elements. Really, just ether is sattvic. I'd say air is more of that Rajasic with the tejas. Or sorry, yeah, with the tejas. With the fire, Awesome. So yeah, you guys will all get these books. And for those who kind of joined late, I need your guys' email addresses and your birth chart information so I can send you guys a copy of your birth charts and all of these files. That would be awesome. So please, at the bottom of your you guys should be able, there should be a chat. You guys all see the chat button?
Yep. Yep.
So just click on that chat button. Please write your email address and your birth chart information, the time of birth, the location of birth, and your time, location, and year and date. And just write it in that chat box, please. If you don't do that, then you won't get any of the info. No study. You guys will have homework. There's a test at the end. If you guys pass the test, this course actually is qualified for 10 hours of what is it? Yoga Alliance certification. I don't know. It's Mika did it, but you get 10 hours of Yoga Alliance stuff, whatever that means. If you pass the test, so study. All right, so the gunas. These are 20 gunas as well that are also very important to understand. So these 20 gunas, again, gunas itself literally means qualities, and these are 10 pairs of opposite qualities. And these are the building blocks of the elements. And it's important because the basic premise of Ayurveda is if we feel a quality of pain or disease or discomfort within our consciousness and our body, then we use the opposite quality to balance that through the senses. And that's the basic method of how we practice Ayurveda. So we practice Ayurveda by recognizing these qualities. Is it heavy? Is it light, cold, hot? Recognizing where there's disharmony or dis-ease in our consciousness and using opposite qualities to balance. So if we're experiencing qualities of dis-ease, then what we're experiencing really is the tamasic quality. It's that gross excess of that elemental disposition. And we bring balance and we come more into our sattvic nature, into our harmony within our true self by practicing bringing in opposite of those qualities into our consciousness. Now, oh, I'm sorry. You guys probably don't see what I'm seeing.
Nope.
Sorry, guys. 10 pairs of opposite qualities. You see that now? Heavy,
Yep.
cold, hot, oily, dry, dull, sharp, smooth, rough, dense, liquid, soft, hard, stable and mobile, gross, subtle, cloudy, clear. And it's really the quality of, or it's a combination of these things that really create the elements. And it's important to know, you know, a lot of Ayurveda practitioners, unfortunately, and people who practice Ayurveda, they have this idea that you're just this one thing, either Pitta dosha, Kapha dosha, Vata dosha. And I know we'll get more into that here in a little bit and what those are. In fact, right now, we'll just say, so Kapha dosha is earth and water element. Pitta dosha is fire and water element. And Vata dosha is air and ether element. And a lot of people get told that there are these one things or maybe two things. And then they're like, okay, everything that I do is going to be to balance those things. But life is way more dynamic than that. And although you might have tendencies towards those things more often than not, really all of these doshas, elements, qualities are fluctuating all the time. And we need to learn to use Ayurveda more dynamically and more like juggling and seeing what's coming up as a form of discomfort or disease within our consciousness. Like if you have a headache, is it a smooth headache? Is it a rough headache? Is it a dull headache? Is it a sharp headache? And using opposite qualities through the senses. So this can be in the form of colors, of fragrances, of tastes, of sounds, right? Through all of the senses, through touch, that we balance these elemental or these qualities of dis-ease. And it's important that we're practicing awareness, meditation. It's really in states of meditation that we can really be like, wait, how's the mind moving? What am I experiencing in the body? What am I feeling right now in this moment? And how am I going to bring greater balance or harmony into what I'm feeling? And that is the biggest part of Ayurveda. So congratulations. You guys now know how to use Ayurveda. That's amazing. Right. Sorry, guys. So we are these three doshas. There's Vata dosha, there's Pitta dosha, and there's Kapha dosha. And we are these three things. We're really all of them. Depending on where your core desires were, right, your seed desires to experience Prakriti and identify through the material existence through these bodies, we have a dominance of either Vata dosha, Kapha dosha, or Pitta dosha. A lot of the time, like for me, I'm actually Pitta Kapha. So I'm predominantly Pitta, that fire and water element, but I have an awful lot of Kapha, that earth and water element. And then Vata is my second, or is my third, which I have it, but maybe not as much as the Pitta and the Kapha, at least. And there's a term, what's called Prakriti, and that's an important term. Definitely write that in your notes, Prakriti. And that's referring to your DNA. It's referring to your birth position of elemental qualities. And then there, right next to that is Vikruti, right? Vikruti. And Vikruti is how they are all, the state of balance currently right now. So there's the Prakriti, which is your inherent state of balance, and Vikruti, your current imbalance, where things have gone awry and what the order of doshas are now, right now. Most people, just because of the Kali Yuga, or the time of life that we're in, most people are in this Vata dosha. This is very much a very air and ether time of life. The speed of communication, right? Air is movement. It's speed. It's that bumblebee. The way that information travels, how busy we are all the time. We live in a time and a culture of life where Vata dosha is the hardest. We're going through a cultural global Vata dosha disorder right now, or imbalance. And so really for most people, Vata dosha is the one to regulate first, for most people. But yeah, that takes some fine tuning to understand what state it's in, how balanced it could be. It's a practice, and Ayurveda is a practice. Just like your yoga practice. Every day we're learning more about our true nature and how consciousness interacts with the material existence. So Vata dosha is definitely one to get in balance right away. Then there's Pitta, which is fire and water, and then Kapha, earth and water. So, so Vata people have qualities, have characteristics. They have physical characteristics, the way that you physically look. Typically, Vata people are more asymmetrical features. They're unique in their appearances and have extremes in the body, such as like big noses and maybe obesity or emaciation. Vata is kind of on the extreme end of either of those things. So you might think that obesity was more Kapha dosha, right? Anybody like earth, water, that's like big. But really, Kaphas are earth and water. They're more like Samoan type big, right? Like big bones, big structure, big, just an overall girth. But Vata brings it into more of an extreme, either in obesity or emaciation. Typically, Vata type people are hardly ever middle of the road as far as like weight goes. Middle of the road people are more Pitta type people. So Vata dosha, as far as the emotional characteristics or mental characteristics, it's going to be creative, talkative, active, whimsical. Vata is inspirational, in spirit, right? In the air, in the movement, in the prana, inspirational. So we all know these people that kind of are quirky. Maybe they got like long fingers, big noses. They look a little funny, and they are funny. Maybe like who's a Vata type person? Anybody Vata type people? Any celebrities? Who can name some Vata celebrities?
Robin.
Nobody. They're usually
Danny
hilarious.
DeVito. Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito, yeah, he's got some Vata for sure. He's a quick-witted person. Definitely has some funny proportions. How about Kramer from Seinfeld?
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one. Yeah.
Right. How about Jim Carrey? Kind of that emaciated, long, spindly.
How about Pee Wee Herman?
Pee Wee Herman, definitely some Vata there. Some deranged Vata there. Sure. Anybody else? Who thinks that they're predominantly Vata type people? Anybody in here?
Me, Lauren.
Lauren, are you a Vata type person?
I'm all Vata.
All Vata. Totally. So a balanced Vata is lighthearted, adaptable, creative, social, intuitive, and loves being active, physically and mentally. An imbalanced Vata, anxiety, attention disorders, inability to focus, excess or rapid weight gain, weight loss. They usually have circulatory issues. They have trouble sleeping, insomnia, dryness, dry skin, constipation is a huge Vata type imbalance. And then you would bring opposite qualities to balance Vata. So grounding, warming qualities, daily oil massages, being in warm temperatures, staying out of the erraticness of the weather, especially the cold, windy weather. Eating warmed, cooked, grounding foods, root vegetables are really great for a Vata type person. Going to bed, regularity, routine is super important. Avoiding stimulants and working towards regular elimination, or take your Triphala. Anybody know what Triphala is?
Only the best.
Right, Triphala is like the ultimate herb of all herbs. It's like the superfood of the Ayurveda world. So definitely recommend getting some Triphala.
Tastes really good.
Berries, Harataki, Vivataki, and Amalaki.
Yeah,
And
I don't
triphala
think-
is really high in vitamin C, which is actually really important right now. They're saying vitamin C, vitamin D are kind of the two biggest things that you could do to protect yourself against the coronavirus. So triphala is a great way to get your vitamin C in. And also some interesting research. I don't know about the facts of this, but I've heard, and it's hard to know what the facts are these days. But I've heard that most people who are getting the coronavirus or having complications with the coronavirus have really poor digestive health, or have some sort of gut thing going on that's causing them, or bad gut biome that's causing them to really succumb and have issues to the virus. So triphala is like a toothbrush for your colon, and it regulates your down and out movements, which is why it's so regulating to vata. Down and out is the most important direction of energy for grounding vata, elimination. Super, super important. So triphala works like a little toothbrush that helps for your colon. It helps it generates the peristalsis contractions in a way that strengthens the large intestine, where most purgatives tend to have a weakening effect on the colon walls. Triphala has a tightening, toning effect on the colon walls, and is super high in vitamin C. So take your triphala. If you guys learned anything from this whole 5 days, is take your triphala. Well, there's some other things that are probably just as important.
I still have mine.
Sorry, what's that?
How do you spell triphala?
Triphala.
Thank you.
And it doesn't taste the greatest until
It's horrible.
you don't need it.
Understatement.
And then it
It's
starts
horrible.
to taste a little sweeter. Once you've gotten into the routine of it, you start to develop an appreciation for it, because really your whole system's working more optimally when you have it. So you start to appreciate those qualities that triphala brings into your consciousness, which is a little bitter, a little astringent. And we all, and that's kind of the idea too, is like, if you want a sweet life, eat bitter and astringent things, eat bitter and astringent qualities, and your life will be sweeter. If you want a bitter, astringent life, then eat sweets, and your life will be bitter and astringent. We have to experience all the qualities. So we get to choose if life brings them to us or forces them to us, or if we can consciously direct the qualities that we experience.
Bitter is better.
Yeah, bitter tastes are better tastes. Right, bitter, astringent tastes will definitely help you develop, have a sweeter life. That's all there is to it. And so and those are the purifying tastes, right? We're purifying the excess elemental qualities through bitter and astringent tastes. We're not quite there yet, guys, but there are 6 tastes in Ayurveda, and those tastes are really how we bring in that elemental disposition through our food, is through those tastes. So we're not quite there yet. You guys think we got vata nailed? Did we do the vata? You guys? All right, ready to move on.
Yeah.
Pitta, so fire and water. And pitta is that which cooks, is what it literally means. And it is all of the metabolic actions in the body. A pitta type person, the physical characteristics is symmetrical. They have sharp features, defined features, have a muscular stature.
Will you
And-
just share your
Hey,
screen again?
yeah, we
Your,
lost the picture, Tim,
screen.
Sorry, guys.
the page. There it is.
Yeah, so pitta has is mainly those fire and water qualities. The physical features, the body symmetry, sharp features, defined musculature, and fire imparts color. So if somebody has a lot of color, whether it be their personality or within their with the color of their eyes, any of those things, really Pitta is to blame for that. If anybody's ever like put a quarter on a stove, on an electric stove, anybody ever done that? Well, it makes the quarter turn tons of different colors. And that's just a part of what the metabolic process or what heat does to the material existence, is it brings the colors out. So yeah, color is a very big part of Pitta type people, whether that be colorful personalities. Pitta type people are the type A people. They're the more like vibracious type of people. They're the louder people. They're leaders in general. When they're in a state of balance, or the emotional characteristics, joy, courage, willpower, anger, jealousy, mental perception, that fire gives them the light of the mind. It gives them an ability to break down information. Also, that fire can kind of travel up and burn out all your hair follicles on the top of your head. And so typically, Pitta people tend to be thinning or have massive receding hairlines, especially as they get older, and that fire burns out everything. And so the balanced version is a very joyful disposition, sharp intellect, tremendous courage and drive. The imbalanced disposition is anger, rage, ego, control issues. All of those things. Inflammation, rashes, ulcers, heartburn, fever, hormonal imbalances are definitely a Pitta type of issue. And we would balance Pitta by having cool, calming things. Sweet tastes are typically balancing for a Pitta. Pittas would want to stay away from like salsa, right? Or any of those like super, as far as tastes go, sour and pungent is what Pitta stays away from. Those are the tastes, salty, sour, and pungent. Those three tastes are increasing to the fires inside of the body, or the inflammation type qualities in the body. So if you want to do away with inflammation, if you have excess inflammation in your body, stay away from salty, sour, and pungent tastes. Walks in the moonlight. That's a beautiful thing for Pittas to do. The moonlight is considered to be super cooling and rejuvenative. Cooling foods like cucumbers, sweet fruits, melons. Laugh, have fun. One of the biggest balancing things is to stop working for a Pitta and just go on a walk, or have fun. Do something that's not stress inducing. Stress is kind of the big one for Pitta type people. And would you guys say that it's mostly Rajasic, Tamasic, or Sattvic?
Tamasic.
I
Pittas?
would say
Rajasic, that's right.
Yes.
So now we can start seeing how those three things really unfold into everything. That Raja, Sattva, Tamas. And then Kapha dosha, earth and water. I'm sorry, guys. Let me see your guys' faces again. And then who's a Pitta dosha? Anybody in here a Pitta?
I am.
Yeah, totally. A lot of Pittas in this room, for sure. I think most everybody in here is. Except for Lauren.
Rachel Kapha, primarily.
She's definitely got some of that for sure. All right, so we'll go ahead and get into kapha. That which protects is what kapha literally means.
You share the screen again.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Thanks. And so kapha's qualities: heavy, slow, steady, solid, cold, soft, oily. These are some of the qualities. Earth and water, right? It's dense, it's cool, it's right. The physical characteristics: large eyes, smooth, radiant skin, thick hair, big bones. They tend to sleep soundly and have regular digestion for the most part. Emotional characteristics: naturally calm, thoughtful, loving, enjoys life, finds comfort in routine, strong, loyal, patient, steady, supportive. Balanced kaphas: loving. They are the most loving of all the doshas. In fact, literally the fat that's on you is like pure love. It's your ability to have love. In fact, if you don't have a good amount of fat on your body, then you don't have the ability really to hold that nourishing love quality. Now, that being said, you know, it's also very easy to have too much fat on the body, and that goes from being a balanced, protective, nurturing quality to having more an excess of attachment, sluggishness, dullness, lethargy, that tamasic quality. So that love can easily get into attachment, right? Just like anything, right? Love can easily start to get into attachment. And so with kaphas, it's really important. They're on the razor's edge of allowing that love to get to very quickly turn into attachment. But typically they're solid friends forever. They're forever friends. And that's they're the best type of people for sure. To balance a kapha, we need the opposite qualities, right? We need heating qualities. We need a lot of movement. We need a lot of rajas, right? We need to bring in some of that pitta: stimulation, warming, moving activity, regular routines. Ideally, awakening before the sun comes up in the morning is really important. Avoid taking naps for a kapha type person. Now, keep in mind that we can get out of balance in any of these doshas at any time. I don't care if you're predominantly pitta, you can totally go through a kapha phase where that excess or that attachment or those kinds of qualities can quickly get heavy on the consciousness. And as far as the gunas go, is kapha more rajasic, tamasic, or sattvic?
Tamasic.
Tamasic,
Right. It has
right?
a love of all things.
What's that?
I feel like it has the love of all things and attachment to things, tangible things.
Right. It has the love for the material existence, for sure. It has that attachment. So it is more of that tamasic quality. And then, so what's going to be the sattvic dosha?
Vata.
Vata, right. And so oftentimes, like famous yogis of old were definitely more Vata type characters, right? They're more that emaciated, like kind of like nature. And the idea is that they have that ether quality to it. Ether is space. Ether is the all-encompassing quality or element that encompasses everything. And so Vata type people tend to be more spiritually oriented or connected to the ethers, connected to that space element, connected to that inspiration. But yeah, they can easily get ungrounded in that quest for that spiritual, and they can attach to the material aspect of the element and not the sattvic aspect of the element. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when a vata is out of balance, what they're really doing is expressing vata in a tamasic way and not a sattvic way. And the same thing could be true for any of the doshas. So if any of the doshas are out of balance, if pitta is out of balance, then you're expressing that pitta dosha in a tamasic way and not the sattvic way. Does that make sense, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Sure. But there is like a primary guna to each dosha, but they all can be expressed either in a tamasic or sattvic way. All right. So just so you guys know, there are 5 homes in the body that everybody has for each of the doshas. So these are different function processes of the body that's related to the dosha. And when the dosha goes out of balance, it goes out of balance in one of these 5 homes. And specifically, it always goes out of balance in the stomach first, and then will move its way into the rest of the body. So we're not going to cover this in very much depth. I just want you guys to know that it's a thing. They're called subdoshas, and there are 5 homes for each of the doshas in the body. So another word for dosha that might help you guys conceptualize this a little bit more is a fault, as in like a fault line. And maybe you notice that as far as that, it's in a spectrum. So air and ether have similar enough qualities. They're close enough together in that vibrational range that they can homogenize. And it's the homogenization of those qualities that form vata dosha. Pitta dosha, there's enough fire and water qualities. They're close enough in their qualities that it homogenizes and forms pitta dosha. Is anybody like, how is water at all related to fire? Is anybody thinking like that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you think of like the bile in your belly or the stomach acids, those are all like liquids, right? But they have a large metabolic action. Or even the way that fire moves across the plane has kind of a watery quality in its movement. Would you agree maybe?
Yeah.
So you can see how they kind of share some qualities, especially in the body. In all of the metabolic actions all happen through your fluids and has that quality. And then there's hot lava, right? That's pretty fire and water quality. Like, so anyway, they share enough qualities that they can homogenize into pitta dosha, and then earth and water have similar enough qualities that they homogenize into kapha dosha. So also, as far as this spectrum goes, let's see. Let me pull up something real quick. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Oh, goodness. Almost there. Oh, computers. All right, took me a while to pull that up. You guys can see that all right?
Is that your backyard?
I wish. I wish. But this is life. This is nature. And I want you guys to be able to start to recognize the ways in which the doshas and the elements are in nature, as well as in you. But it starts with the earth, right? And the earth is the heaviest, most dense of all of the elements. And so there's the earth. It's kind of like the basic platform. It's at the very bottom. But then there's water as well. And water is also pretty heavy and has such similar qualities to earth that they pretty much hang out on the same plane. And they're really, that's kapha dosha, and all the muddiness that's in there is kapha dosha. And then what is a little bit less dense than kapha dosha or earth and water? What's the next layer? And how do we see it on the photo, on the landscape?
Air.
No, that's not the next layer.
Water, pitta.
Fire and water, yeah. Where do you guys see the fire and water?
The mountains.
Mountains.
No, melting. Sorry, I thought you said fire and earth.
Fire and water for pitta dosha. Where do you guys see pitta in this photo?
Fires in the sky.
The sun.
Well, yeah, the sun has some fire for sure. That's like the ultimate source of the fire for sure. In the grass, in the metabolic actions of the grass, of the chloroform, and all of those metabolic processes. It's in the metabolic actions of all the bacteria and organisms that really make up the whole the ecosystem. It's this person right there. That's fire. That's some heat, right? If we were to put like a heat thing on it, it really it would be all the grass and this person right here, a thermal lens, right? That we would see. Is that everybody following me?
Yep.
And then we kind of go up from there.
Yeah.
And then you can see the air with the clouds moving by. And then the space is what really, contains it. It brings context to it. It's what everything's within. It's all within space. Space is the distance between the river and that person. That's the space that's there. So can you guys see all of the spectrum of elements within the landscape, within our earth? Totally.
Yeah.
So also within our body. Awesome. And then that's awesome. So you guys really got this. Now we're going to get into the things in which we do with all of this knowledge. So there are 3 pillars. Oh goodness, you guys I need to share the right screen again. There are 3 pillars of health and wellness within Ayurveda. These are the most fundamental things. And if we don't have these 3 things properly set, then really it's impossible to manage our doshas or to start to strive towards more of that sattvic nature. And that's sleep. That's one of the most important things that we need to strive towards a more sattvic nature. digestion. So sleep is not just sleep, but it's the quality of sleep. It's how regular your sleep is. It's how in tune with nature your sleep is. So it's your ability to go to bed when the sun goes down and get up when the sun comes up. And I know that's not always possible for all of us, given our professions and our work. I know, Eric, you pull some graveyards. Rachel, I know you probably, and for flight attendants, oh my goodness, that's crazy. I'm sure sleep can be really hard. But that makes it more important to try and do what you can to get the best quality sleep when you can. It means that you got to spend extra time and attention to make sure that you're getting that proper rest and restoration that you need. And really honestly trying your best to like maybe try to get out of that type of schedule somehow and try to figure it out to where you can get that regular sleep as best you can. One day, maybe when we're retired, we can live a sattvic nature. And that's kind of a thing too. You know, we are here to perform our work, our dharma, and to actually sacrifice the health of the body for what we believe in, whether that be like raising kids or really doing our profession or performing our service to humanity. And that's okay. That's what we do. We sacrifice the optimal health of the body to do what we need to do and to live the karmas and perform the dharmas that we need to perform to be able to be able to have that peace of mind. And so if we have to sacrifice our physical health, then that's a thing. You know, we're going to die anyway. So, and we're going to fall apart. Ayurveda is just a good manual to have to try your best to optimize yourself to make the best of what you have while you have it. But it's not the meaning of life. Yeah, so no judgment, but sleep is super important. Digestion, that's the second most important thing. And that has to do with the foods that we're eating, also the relationship that we have with the food that we eat, and the practice that we have and how we eat that food. You know, trying your best to get locally sourced food, you know, trying your best to get the best quality food. Really, food made with love is the most important thing. But then also foods that are conducive to your elemental disposition. So if you're a Pitta person, then we need to try and stay away from the sour, salty, and pungent tastes and increase the bitter, astringent, and sweet tastes if you're a Pitta person. And that's going to be more cooling for your nature. I'll definitely be sending you guys food lists, things, different types of foods that are best for different types of doshas, things like that. So that will be really awesome. And then healthy management of desires, or brahmacharya. So brahmacharya is just understanding that we only have so much life force energy within us, and to use that life force energy in responsible ways that are conducive towards performing our dharma. So if I were to have spent all day today partying and I don't know, maybe eating just like, or spending all day today watching movies on Netflix, which I really wanted to do, that would have been awesome. And eating my Ruffles potato chips and maybe having sex all day or something like that. I wouldn't have been in a place right now to deliver this information in the most clear, conducive way possible. Right? So brahmacharya is about managing your desires and practicing moderation so that when you perform your work, that you have the greatest amount of efficiency behind that possible, or potency. Brahmacharya is about managing your potency. And it's a key pillar for health, moderation in general, your vital energy. And then, so these are the 3 most important things that we can do. So again, the most important things for your health that you could have gotten out of this whole workshop, really these 3 things are primary, and then Triphala. and those are like, oh my gosh, worth all the money that you spent on the workshop, just to know those 3 things. I know some of you guys already did know those things, but it's good to get it hammered into your consciousness over and over and over again. So regulate those things, and we'll be able to start making steps forward in our life towards a more sattvic nature in a big way. So much about digestion, you know, so much research coming out about how our digestion affects everything, how the microbiome in our gut affects everything, and how the gut really is our second brain. There's so much to it, and we could go into it in more depth, but really most of the serotonin that your body produces gets used for that peristalsis function in your gut. And so if we're having imbalances happening in our gut, whether that be gas, hyperacidity, sorry, what's that? Whether that be gas, hyperacidity, inflammation, or excess mucus or heaviness or sluggish digestion, our belly uses most of the serotonin to help alleviate that discomfort in the belly. And that makes it so that our brain has less serotonin, and we don't feel as content, or we don't have that capacity to be satiated, or to be in a state of contentment or ease. And so it's super important, that digestion quality. And speaking of that, that's how the doshas manifest first. Remember, I was saying that it roots in the belly, and then makes its way out. And we can notice when the dosha is rooting in the belly, if it's a vata way, then it's constipation, gas, and bloatedness. And that's how we know that vata is really out of balance, is when we're either constipated, gassy, or bloated. We know that pitta is out of balance when our stools are loose, and we have hyperacidity in the gut. Acid reflux, heartburn, or loose stools. And burning on elimination is another symptom of pitta imbalance. And then we know kapha is out of balance when it's sluggish digestion, too much mucus in the stool, when it's just like, when we feel, and that can cause nausea when we have too much mucus in our gut, when the digestion is too sluggish. It causes kind of a queasy, nauseous feeling. And that's how we know kapha is out of balance. Anybody experiencing right now any of those doshas in their belly? Anybody want to share? Well, you guys are one group of balanced yogis.
Yeah, we're.
Congratulations for being so balanced. Awesome. So we are starting to wind down with time. I definitely want to close with a chant as well. Let's go ahead and share one more image here, if I can find it. Here it is. Okay. I just kind of want to like bring home that whole Holy Trinity thing. And this is kind of this picture here is the main idea that I want to get across through this workshop, is how there's a Vedic braid, right? There's these three main energies and how they're all braided together to kind of form a complete science of the Vedas, or of the metaphysical body and our relationship with consciousness. There's three kind of aspects, or this trinity. And all these things mean a lot of things. We'll get into what they all mean here throughout the workshop. But I kind of want to bring home the Rajasic, Tamasic, Sattvic energy. So even in our brain, right? You guys all see the brain here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have the reptilian part of your brain. This is the reptilian part. And this has to, this functions from the autonomic nervous system, our respiration, all of our survival instincts really come from this reptilian part of the brain. And this is considered, you know, like genetically the oldest part of our self, of our brain, of our consciousness, is the reptilian part, the oldest part. Is it going to be Sattvic, Tamasic, or Rajasic?
Tamasic.
Right, Tamasic. Absolutely. So because it's that past, right? It's the context maker, it's the old, it's the unconscious part of our consciousness. So it's the we're not even aware of it, you know, of what it takes to breathe. Like we're not consciously breathing, right? It happens from a tamasic fixed part of our consciousness. And it's ruled by planets. You can't really see, maybe I can zoom in. I don't know if zooming in works. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's ruled by two planets, and these planets are predominantly tamasic planets, and that's important to know. And that is Shani and Mangala, and that's the Sanskrit for Saturn is Shani, and Mangala is Mars. And Saturn is where we get our fight or flight, or it's our flight. Saturn's the fear. Saturn is the planet of fear. It's the planet of like, hey, there's doom and gloom over there. Stay away. And so it is our fear response. And then there's the fight, which is Mars, which is that physical, like, I am going to do what I need to do to survive. I'm going to take what I need to take. I'm going to confront what I need to confront to survive. So that reptilian part of the brain that governs the autonomic unconscious part of our self is tamasic and ruled by the planet Saturn and Saturn and Mars. Does that all make sense to everybody so far?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. And then we get into the Rajasic part of our brain, which is the mammalian part of the brain. Mammalian. And the mammalian part of the brain is the context maker. And this is responsible for how we navigate our way through time and space. This is responsible for developing relationships. This is like, I am brother or mother or father or yoga teacher or whatever. This all happens from the mammalian part of the brain. And it's how we really direct ourselves through our life, and our everyday experiences happen primarily from the mammalian. And this is the Rajasic part. And the planets that are Rajasic are Venus and Mercury. These are the Rajasic planets. Shukra is Venus, and Mercury is Buddha. The word Shukra literally translates into reproductive fluid, and Buddha literally translates into the intelligent one. Venus is about how we feel about our brother, about our mother. It's all of the feelings. In fact, Venus is all of the feel-good chemicals in the brain. It's our serotonin, dopamine, all of those things. All are the Venus part of things. And Mercury is the context maker. It's the logical, mathematical part of our brain that's able to put things, all the puzzle pieces together. And that's the Mercury part of the mammalian part of the brain, or the Rajasic. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's cerebral, which is Sattvic. This is our higher consciousness, our creative intelligence. This is our ability to be creative, to problem solve. This is our spiritual connection. These are our more abstract moral compasses. Our morality comes from the cerebral part of our brain, or the Sattvic part of our brain. And the three planets that are Sattvic are Guru, Surya, and Chandra. Guru is Jupiter, or the teacher, and that's really the morality aspect of things. Surya is the sun, and that's more of the, well, really it's like, it's that divine part of our consciousness. It's the connect. It's our spiritual connection. It's that desire for that higher connection or higher purpose. And then Chandra is the more emotion part of the brain. It's our ability to love unconditionally, or the moon. It's that feminine quality of consciousness. Yeah. Awesome. And that's all, these are the Sattvic planets. Sattvic planets for the cerebral part of the brain. Awesome.
What planet is Chandra?
The moon.
Okay.
And that's the emotions, feelings, love. All right, I think we're ready to bow out for tonight. This has been so fun. I know that a lot of you guys knew a lot of that information already, but I hope that it just kind of hammered it in there a little deeper, and really becomes a good foundation and building block for the next 4 days of this workshop. You guys should be able to use the same link that you used today to enter in tomorrow. And yeah, feel free to leave any questions, email me any questions. I'll try to get you guys these books before our session tomorrow. I strongly recommend taking them into FedEx and getting them spiral ring bound in color. That'd be awesome too. A little bit more expensive, but totally worth it. So I'll send you guys all of those files, and send you guys the recording of tonight as well, in case you guys want to review it. Any questions before we go?
Tim, the files might be too big for email, so if they're in a Google Drive, you can share that drive with us.
Yeah, totally. I will do that. Absolutely. All right, we'll go ahead and close with the chant that's about recognizing the inherent perfection of everything, and letting go of anything, just let it sink in through osmosis. So we'll sit up, close your eyes, take some deep breaths. And if you feel like following along, feel free. Purnamida Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Have a wonderful night, guys.
Namaste.
Thank you, T.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Namaste.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.